two more examples of these, and since these take a while, I will be moving at a rather quick pace. We're going to find the x-intercepts first. The x-intercept is where we plug 0 in for y. When I do that, I end up dividing by 4, and I have 1 plus negative 1 over x squared. Move that to the other side. Cross multiply. So I get my x to be plus or minus 1. So I have 2 x-intercepts, 1 at negative 1, 0, and 1 at 1, 0. The next thing I want to look for is the y-intercepts. So the y-intercepts where it crosses the y-axis. So we'll plug in 0 for the x. When I do that, notice how I end up with a undefined value here. So there is no y-intercept. Moving on then, we would see there is no y-intercept because if I look at this closely, I've got vertical asymptotes, and vertical asymptotes occur where the bottom equals 0. So I would have a vertical asymptote at x equals 0. And then lastly, I would have let's see if I can fix that really quick. A horizontal asymptote I'm going to take the limit as x approaches infinity as x approaches plus or minus infinity. So I will look at each part. So I'd have 4 times 1 minus, if you putting positive infinity or negative infinity here, it doesn't really matter which one. It still gives you the same number of 0. So we'll end up with the value of 4 for our horizontal asymptote. So we have a horizontal asymptote of 4, we have a vertical asymptote of 0, and we have these 2 points to work from. So when I sketch this graph, I will end up drawing in my vertical asymptote, my horizontal asymptote. I have an intercept of 1, 0, and 1 at negative 1, 0, and so my graph ends up looking like this. This is symmetric about the y-axis. It's symmetric about the y-axis because if I fold it in half on the y-axis, I will end up with the same graph. Last one of these examples, I'm going to go ahead and find the x and y intercepts. If I do that, I end up getting x over square root of x squared minus 4. Well, that tells me that there's an x-intercept at 0. However, if I actually look into this a little bit further and I plug 0 into the bottom, I end up with an imaginary number on the bottom. There will end up being no intercepts for this problem. We do not have any intercepts, but we do have vertical asymptotes. The vertical asymptotes occur where the bottom equals 0. So those would occur at plus or minus 2. 2 will give me a 0 on the bottom, and so will negative 2. And lastly, I'll look at the horizontal asymptotes, which is what I really want to look at in particular in this problem because it's one with the square root. So I'm going to take the limit as x approaches plus or minus the square root, or plus or minus infinity. Highest degree on top is x, the highest degree on the bottom is the square root of x squared. Now remember that we are going to simplify this, and since we are taking the square root of something, we actually get plus or minus the square root of x on the bottom, which means that these limits are 1 or plus or minus 1. So we have horizontal asymptotes at y equals 1 and horizontal asymptote at y equals negative 1. We're going to quick sketch the graph of this, and when I do that, I'll have vertical asymptotes, horizontal asymptotes, and I have no intercepts, so no points to go off of. So when I look at my graphing calculator, this is what I end up with. Now I will tell you that this is symmetric about the origin, and you can check that because all the x, y ordered pairs of this graph and all the negative x and negative y they're both ordered pairs of this graph.